All right, so I think now we are familiar to some of the questions that we can see here. This is a continuation of our exercise, now working from question 2, where we are given calculate the size of x. So still on our geometry of 2D shapes, they can have this type of a question where you have to consider this as x. Okay, x is just an indication of an angle. It can indicate a side, whatever that you, so this is indicating an angle. Okay, let's see what we have. This is equal to this. That is the side GE and the side FE are equal. So if they are equal, it means these angles that are opposite, all right? The angles opposite to these sides must be equal. I talked about that. So if they are equal like this, guys, if angle G is equal to angle F, what does it mean? If this is X, this also is going to be X. That is what it means. They're equal. So if this is X, this is also going to be X. Angles in a triangle add up to 180. So you can form an equation from there, from this whole part. We can now form an equation because we do understand that angles in a triangle add up to 180. So this part that this is X and this is X, simply the property of what? An isosceles triangle. But adding up these angles, the X plus this X also, we add this X to this X and this 80 degrees to give us 180 degrees. There we are now talking about what? Angles in a triangle. In a triangle. Remember, angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. But to say this is X and this is X, we are talking of what? An isosceles triangle there. Then you can solve for X. It's an equation. So solve for X. Remember your equations. So you can add these two, that is 1x and 1x is going to be 2x. 1 plus 1, which is 2x, plus 80 degrees is equal to 180 degrees. We can also take the 80, sorry, to the other side of the equation. The moment it jumps the equal sign, it becomes a positive. Sorry, it was a positive here, so it's going to be a minus. Take note about that. So it's going to be a minus on this other side. So you subtract it here. It was a positive, then it's going to be a minus. I mean that it jumps the other side there, it becomes a minus. Okay, sorry for that, guys. Just that your teacher is a little bit tired today. Anyway, so this is going to be 2x is equal to, we subtract, okay? So this, we have taken it to the other side, so we are going to subtract it there. So it's 180 minus 80 degrees. Take note, a plus changes the moment it crosses to a minus. So that's 2x is equal to 180 minus 80. 180 minus 80, which is going to be 100 degrees. The difference you're subtracting there, and simply divide. Remember, from the multiplicative inverse, when we talked about these equations, we can divide by 2 to obtain x. So therefore, our x was going to be what? 100 divided by 2, which is 50 degrees. We can form an equation in x because these two are equal, so it's also x. This is x, so this is also x. We can just use any other way, guys, as long as you understand that angles there that are in triangle, they add up to 180, and the concept of isosceles, you understand it, you can work it the way that you do understand. That was the only, okay, that was one question there. Question number 3, KLM. This is a straight line, all right, from K to L to M, all right. As you can see, there is a straight line to be considered, okay? Take note about two angles there on a straight line also. Calculate the size of X and Y. All right, there we are given a triangle, and we do understand angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we can calculate angle X first. Angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So if I add the 50 degrees plus this 100 degrees plus the angle X, I'm supposed to obtain 180 degrees angles in a triangle in that case. So you have to consider angles in a triangle. They add up to 180 degrees. So let's solve for x. We now solve. It's an equation. 50 plus 50 plus 100, that is 150, plus x is equal to 180 degrees. So just like previously, we can take the 150 to the other side. It becomes a minus. It was a positive, a minus there. 180 minus 150 degrees. So x was going to be 30 degrees. So that's the angle x here is going to be 30 degrees. Okay, so many ways that you can actually do to calculate these guys. All right. Then the other part is to calculate y. X and y are on a straight line. We are back to the geometry of a straight line. Angles on a straight line. They add up to 180 degrees. So if I add the x here, which is 30 degrees, to angle y, this one, I'm supposed to obtain 180 degrees, not because it's a triangle. No. But because it's a straight line. A straight line is also the same property as a triangle, that if you add angles, they must be up to 180 degrees. So here, the reason is about angles on a straight line. Angles on a straight line. On a straight line. This has nothing to do with a triangle. It has to do with a straight line. There's another way that we're going to talk about, okay? Do not worry. So you can solve for y in that case. So y is equal to, take the 30 to the other side, becomes a negative, just like what we had before. So it's going to be 180 minus 30 degrees. So y is 180 minus 30, which is 150 degrees. So y there was going to be 150 degrees. All right. When I talked about the geometry of straight lines before, we had another condition that was including or involving the properties of triangles also. And with that, we want to see if this y can be calculated. All right. We can also calculate y without finding this x. Without x, remember what I said on that class, I do not know which class was it, but I talked about this, that the exterior angle of a triangle, if you're given any triangle, then there's an exterior angle, which is an external, the one that is outside of the triangle. It is equal to the sum of these two opposite interior ones that are opposite. So meaning to say, this y that we are having in this case could have been calculated by adding the opposite interior. Yes, this is the interior, but the ones that are opposite, you add them. So you add the 50 degrees and the 100 degrees. So that was going to give us y, which is 150 degrees. I talked about this concept. The exterior angle is equal to the sum of two opposite interior, the sum of opposite interior. Okay? So that's another way. That's another way we could have used that. Angle B, and all right, and the angle with the size of 130 degrees form a straight angle, okay, which is a straight line. Whenever they talk about a straight angle, it means they form a straight line. Angles on a straight line, 180 degrees. Calculate the size of A, and guys, we are back again to the other part, with that last part that we had. All right, we can calculate angle A. Angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So in this case, we can calculate our angle A. That is, if we add angle A plus these 30 degrees, okay, plus the 130 degrees, we must get 180 degrees angles inside of a triangle. So that's A plus 30 plus 130, which is 160, is equal to 180 degrees. So A is going to be, take this to the other side, it was going to be a minus 180 minus 160 degrees, which was something like 20 degrees. So A was going to be 20 degrees. So if the angle at A is 20 degrees, what about angle at B? We can use that concept that I talked about previously. That is, we can simply calculate the angle at B direct by adding this angle at A and this angle, 20 plus 30. So we can simply add 20 plus 30, which was going to be 50 degrees from the concept of an exterior angle. But is that the only way? No, we can also calculate the same angle at B because these two angles form a straight angle. And a straight angle, we're talking of what? 180 degrees. So if I add these two angles, B and the 130 degrees, I'm supposed to obtain 180 degrees angles on a straight line. That's a straight angle. So B was going to be equal to this other side, you subtract. It was a plus, remember? So it's going to be a minus. So it was going to be 180 degrees minus 130 degrees. The difference there is our angle B. And 180 minus 130, that was going to be 50 degrees. Just like that. So guys, this is in your hands. You see, anything that has to do with the geometry, guys, that's something that you're supposed to be very happy about, because it is any way that you answer it in the way that you understand geometry. You're not supposed to be limited when it comes to geometry. And you must understand this, because this geometry is troubling your brothers in grade 12 there. So make sure you understand these basics, because knowing the basics will lead you to a good basics of whatever that you're going to have in your grade 12 later on. All right. Number 5, angle M and N form a straight angle again. M and N, they form a straight angle. Okay, which is not important for now. Calculate the size of M and N. Nothing is given. We do not have, we just this line, and this line. Never take these ones for granted. They indicate that the sides are equal. Remember, I talked about that on the introduction. So by knowing that these three sides are equal, it also means this angle, and this angle M is equal. That's an equilateral triangle where the angles will be equal. And I talked about this, that in an equilateral triangle, the angles inside will be 60 degrees each. 60, 66. I talked about that. Or you can simply get this way. Since angles in a triangle, they add up to 180 degrees. And these angles all inside, inside, all, they are equal because it's an equilateral triangle. So therefore, angle M was simply going to be given like this, 180 degrees divided by 3, because there are 3 angles that are equal. So you divide by 3 this time, not by 2, but by 3. So that was going to be 60 degrees. Just like that. Or knowing from your properties of an equilateral, if you just see it's an equilateral, 60, 60 like that. What about angle N? Straight angle. Angles on a straight line form or give us 180 degrees. So with that, angle M plus angle N is supposed to give us 180 degrees. But we have already calculated angle M, which is 60. So 60 degrees plus angle N is supposed to give us 180. So we can calculate N. Take the 60 degrees to the other side of our equation. There, it will be a minus 60 degrees. So that is 180 minus 60, which is 120 degrees. So that's our angle N. Or we could have calculated the same angle N using that concept of the exterior angle. It's an exterior angle, so it is the sum of these two opposite interior. This is the interior opposite. You add those interior opposite together, 60 plus 60. You are still going to obtain the 120 degrees that you are given there. So many ways of answering this type of a question. All right, so that was our angle N, which is 120 degrees from the angles on a straight line. You can use that. So let's revise as many questions as we can till we meet again.